So we're going to continue working on the plasma gun and going to do the copper. This is an AK version of copper. Gunmetal's dry now, so it's easier to handle. I was watching a YouTube of a modelling show that happens once a year in Japan. And it's mainly kind of World War One, World War Two stuff, which is not really what I'm into, like, actual plastic kits, not 3D printed. But they have a diorama section, and I've always had a bit of an interest in dioramas myself. I have made one diorama, which is more really just a scenic setting where I can put my models out on display, the smaller sort of wargaming models. But anyway, so I was watching this YouTube, and the quality of their work was just incredible, just absolutely out of this world. Sure, I don't put my hand on there. Yeah, so it's definitely one of those. I would love to go to that show at some stage. I forget the name of the place where it is in Japan, but obviously Japan has some major plastic model kit makers, like I don't know how you pronounce it, Tamiya, and paints and all this sort of stuff. Like the tanks and soldiers and the planes and the boats, helicopters, submarines, sports cars. Like, it was going through the show basically, and just in this section, there's amazing stuff. In this section, there's even more amazing stuff. But the dioramas really grabbed my attention. I was like, that is so cool. I would love to be able to go there at some point and check it out. I have been to Japan several times, my partner being Japanese, but I didn't even know that that existed until I watched this video of the 2025 show, and it was like, I wish I knew about that. Seems like it's on in May each year. There's huge crowds though. I mean, that would be annoying, but still very cool. And it was just one person's YouTube walkings around the show and that, so maybe they weren't interested in 3D and didn't record anything like that, but it's possible that there may be a small section that does that, but from what I understand, it wasn't actually individuals, it was Japanese modeling clubs, so maybe not, maybe there's no 3D there at all. They might have rules around that sort of stuff. people like me might be considered heathens in what we do. Like, it's certainly not traditional modelling kits. And obviously there's a commercial aspect to that because they want to sell their kits and make a lot of money. I'm not sure what the price of that sort of stuff in Japan is like. Like, I know here in Australia, if you want to get, for example, into Warhammer, then buying their kits can be quite an expensive hobby. I just recently watched a Squidmar video, no, another YouTube. I don't watch much like regular TV. I mainly watch YouTubes. A variety of topics because I have other hobbies other than modeling. I am into crypto and I like to watch a lot of what's happening in the crypto world as well. But yes, the majority of my stuff is actually on like modeling and things like that. And I was watching a Squidmar video YouTube recently where they were comparing Games Workshop and comparing on like design and price, which I thought was interesting, versus like a 3D printed equivalent. And I think they gave it to Games Workshop 3-2 in the end. Well, I'm certainly not saying that they're biased or beholden to Games Workshop or anything like that for stuff, but yeah, I certainly think that 3D printed technology and models are at least equal, if not better than these days. That's my own personal opinion. But then also it helps if you have learnt a bit of digital skills. I mean, I am a hack at Blender. I'm by no means like a graphics artist. Painting is my hobby and passion, but over the years I have sort of forced myself to get better and better at digital manipulation. Means to an end for 3D printing. You want to know how to break stuff up, especially like this is actually a pretty good example of this model that I'm working on. I'm not sure who designed this, but they probably expected people to print out sort of like tabletop size models of their design, like this thing, which I take to games and play with, which is fine. But that's not something you want to have on your bookshelf, like as a statue for your collection. You want something that's like this size, huge, or at least that's what I want. But that does have certain implications when it comes to like 3D printing it. Like something that size, you can print like 4 of those on a build plate, no worries, just queue them up and print them off. But something of this size, well, obviously, like I've broken up all the parts. You've got to think about how they're going to connect together. So like cut and key them, split them up, and all of this sort of considerations, and then scale, resizing it. So yeah, Blender is free, which is a good start. You don't have to spend a lot of money like to buy it and to use it. And like all your slicing software is free typically too, but you pay for the model. Like my Bamboo Studio printer, I paid for the printer and it comes with the slicer. But slicing software has pretty big limitations. You can certainly scale stuff in there. So if all you want to do is make it bigger or smaller, you don't even really need to get into digital design. you can do that in a slicer, no problems. But if you want to like cut and key stuff, or make any changes, then yeah, you're certainly going to need to learn some digital skills. I mean, another perfect example is like if you think of a fantasy mage with a staff, like holding a staff, a character, even at small scale, is just going to be a recipe for disaster. What you want to do is you want to separate the staff from the mage, lay it flat on the build plate, and print that, maybe even without support, depending on how flat the staff is. So there are certain practical aspects for 3D printing where, like, manipulating the item to be able to position it on a build plate and print it out is just practical. So yeah, so having some level of skills in whatever program of choice is a big help when it comes to this kind of work, even though that's not my hobby. It's not like, oh, I want to sit down and spend half an hour, in Blender separating this model, but still, if you want to have a nice model to print out, sometimes you need to put in the time and effort to learn these things. I think I have uninstalled Blender from my computer a couple of times, and frustration, like rage quit. I'm over this, never going to use this again, and then a couple of weeks later you kind of cool down. I mean, there is a very steep learning curve to some software. And the ironic thing is I maybe use, I'm not sure of the exact figures, but I maybe use like 5% to 10% of what Blender can do, right? So Blender is a full graphics animation video sort of software that, yeah, it can certainly do a whole heck of a lot more physics and geometry stuff than my little cut and key and separate these parts and, that sort of stuff. So, yeah, it's a very advanced bit of software that I use a very small part of. But once you finally get some level of competency with it, and once again, still a hack, never going to be applying to be a digital designer or anything like that. The time is the main factor, I think, for like those sort of people. Like they can process stuff quickly, and of course AI, like everything else, is changing the game. Don't want to distract and get off topic, but I have also just recently been playing with some software where you can like okay, so I make lots of thumbnails for my videos and stuff. Like AI imagery is nothing new, and a lot of people play around with that. But for a while, I've also been interested in converting images to meshes, digital meshes, like what you would use in Blender. You might need to tidy it up, but to get things started, Sculpt 3D, I think it was, I was playing around with this week. Anyway, the technology is really starting to get there where you can convert images that you have. So you've made your AI image of whatever it is you want, and then you convert that into a mesh, which you can import into Blender. And I did one, just a test one, not something I'm going to print out or spend any time on. It was just testing the technology, and I was pretty stunned with the level of detail that it gave me. So like that is definitely coming a long way. It's not going to be too much time from now where people will stop backing Kickstarters on my mini factory and stuff. Like I've backed so many Kickstarters. I mean, this model I bought as a standalone model, I think, from my mini factory. I've spent a fair bit of money on digital designs on that site. But also I've backed, they don't call them Kickstarters, they call them Frontiers, but same sort of thing. Backed several projects there to get, like entire collections. Well, I can just see that, in the next couple of years becoming a thing of the past. Like, why would you need to spend a couple of $100, which some of these ones, admittedly, they'll have a lot of models and a lot of designs. And, as an artist myself, I'm kind of conflicted with AI. I mean, it's like everything, you want to back art and you want to encourage that. And like, I like to physically, paint these. It's my relaxation, it's my hobby. And you want to encourage people doing that sort of stuff. But the reality is that instead of spending like a couple of $100 to, buy a collection that someone has made, people will just be able to go, hey AI, give me a collection of digital meshes that I can print out on, this particular topic. Oh yeah, and cut and key them so that I can break them up nice and easy. Like you can just extrapolate the technology that we've got now and where that's going to go. And it is certainly going to make these kind of funding Kickstarters, I think, put them under a lot of pressure because people will naturally go, well, why do I need to spend $200 to buy all those models when I can just generate the meshes? And that's pretty cool. I like that, and I'll make it myself, basically. So yes, I do like to kind of keep. That's another topic of YouTube videos, which I like. I do watch a lot of YouTube, so um, nice to make videos and put my own stuff on there, but I also do spend a fair bit of my time watching YouTube. And yeah, definitely a lot of AI stuff is another topic that I am interested in following. Some of my friends are very much into it as well. One of them actually works as a kind of freelancer doing testing of AI results and things like that. So there are some jobs in that space, which is nice because all you hear about is like taking jobs. But and when I go to my Pathfinder role play sessions, one of the other friends, they do all their note taking for the role play in a AI document. So they create this AI document, I'm not sure what it's called or any of the details of it, but basically later on they can go, hey AI, give us a summary of last month's roleplay game. So we can get like a summary for us, and that's quite handy. And hey AI, what was the name of the vendor that we met here in this particular town, and all that sort of stuff. So it's like a almost like a database, a query sort of document of our adventures and what we get up to. I did that one. I haven't done that one. Okay. But yes, it is one of those technologies that is also hit and miss. Like for my thumbnails, for every what I would consider usable sort of image, there's probably like 8 to 10 crap images where things are janky with the bodies, or this particular item is way too big in scale, or not what you want. The other thing which kind of annoys me is some of them have, hey, you like this image, but you want to change something, and I'm like, change everything except this one thing. There's one thing I don't like it, the rest of it is great. And then you say, hey, change this one thing, and it just changes like everything. And it's like, I just wanted one thing changed. Okay, this AK copper is pretty impressive for one coat. That's pretty good coverage, I gotta say. I mean, I will give it a second coat anyway, just to make sure I covered everywhere and got it nice and bright. But helps, of course, that there was white underneath it, or silver. Actually, it was silver, wasn't it? That's right, Bubble. But yeah, no, it's a very nice coverage of paint. Quite impressed with that. Sometimes these kind of like, it's not gold, but these type of golden sort of style of paints can be relatively thin and need what you might call a good 2 coats, and aka like a third coat really. But this one seems really, really quite good. Alrighty, just a bit there, Bubbles. Or maybe it just moves as you turn it. Yeah, not too bad. I'm really actually quite happy with how that is, just considering it's one coat, but yeah, we will leave it there. Okay, so the plan is to continue on the color blocking of the dark blue regions. I've already just done the parts in the middle around the tentacles, because I thought that would be pretty hard for you to see anything at all as to what I'm doing. But there are a lot of ridges in the back, so this is where I will pick it up. So the bolts themselves, like all these studded bolts, will be a different color, but not worrying too much about that detail at this point. Just getting the dark blue first coat down. This is just a marked dark blue. It's not the final color that it will end up being, but just, yeah, color blocks, hence the name. Out the region marks it out in the sort of final color that it will be. And I quite like the contrast between the lighter blue, and there was a lot of lighter blue, so at least this kind of diminishes that as well, which is very good. Makes it less in your face, less cartoony. But even the lighter blue will eventually get some like weather texturing and some wear and all that sort of stuff, so yeah, it won't look quite as cartoonish, but this dark blue regions just gives a lot of contrast, so I think it'll end up looking pretty good. So it's like articulated sections, I guess, designed that they can bend and flex and move from a design point of view. Also did the legs. Once again, it's just the first coat, so doesn't look smooth, but good enough. I'm having a lot of fun with the plasma gun, working out the colour scheme. It's coming together quite nice. I'm very happy with how it's looking. I did the red on the tip there, like the heat red. It's had its first coat, so starting to all come together. Was playing around a bit more with Space 3D. It's like a image to mesh technology. It's just amazing stuff. Like AI itself, I do watch a fair amount of AI YouTube, especially Matt Wolf. He puts out one every week. Shout out to him. And does like a summary of the changes for the week. And as someone that works, you know, I find something like that is quite handy to watch to get a weekly update on the changes and developments, because, you know, obviously the pace of things there just is so fast. It can be hard to keep up. But I do like AI technology, as I think I've spoken about before. I, you know, just very basic sort of use it for creating thumbnail images to start off with, but you know, certainly interested in the digital mesh applications that that you're starting to see come out now. I mean, it's really getting advanced, even just like in the last 6 months. The differences between what you could do is quite remarkable, the level of detail. Hold that. So I'll probably end up doing the bolts in a like silvery, light grey metallic colour is the idea. But I'll probably need to white out the bolts first before I do that, especially with the dark blue areas, but it's just too hard to like miss the bolts, like not paint them, doing like for this dark blue for example. It's would be too time consuming to go around each bolt, and you'd miss areas and need to go back with dark blue, and yeah, it would just be a pain. It's much easier to just paint it all in the color block color, and then once you're done, just get a little dab of like white first and then the final color, and just highlight the bolts out. I find that way works better than trying to do a color block and avoid tiny little bolts. So all the way down to the teeny weeny little one at the bottom. Well, hopefully you got to see some of that. Big model to kind of maneuver around, but it is coming together. My poor crawler model hasn't had much love. I started it, I painted in the dark green of the base colour, and then I started this thing and just instantly fell in love with this model, and I've pretty much not touched the crawler since, but I do need to get back to it, I know. But the infernal Bruiser is, this model is certainly getting a lot more advanced and a lot more attention in the crawler model. So, alrighty, that is the dark blue first coat, aka colour block. Okay, so going to work on the tanks on the plasma gun and using model colour silver. It's the new model colour, if it makes a difference. It's supposedly an improved formula. And the tanks are basically the only part of this model which is going to have this silver. The talons and the bolts and things like that, I think I'm going to use more like a gunmetal, like a very light grey gunmetal. So yeah, that's the idea for those. But I think for these fuel tanks, basically the silver should work nice. I've done 2 coats of the red, so that's coming along for the heat flames. I also realised that I haven't told the story yet of my paint desk and how I came to have this desk. So I probably should tell that story. And seeing as I've thought of it, I thought I'd go through that now. So basically, before I had this desk, I used to use a kind of hybrid blend desk that I had made for my table saw and for my router, because I do the odd woodworking project. I do have a woodworking shop. And so the frame with the lights and now holding the shelving for the paints, it all looked very different back then. This was actually held in place by 4 bolts, 2 on each side on the bottom, and it was designed that it would be removable. And if I wanted to use the table saw, I could unbolt it and take it off, put it aside, and then use the table saw and then put it back on. All my woodworking stuff is all on casters, so it's easy to move it around. Basically, I have it all compact and then take the car out and wheel it all out in the car space and use that as like a mobile area for my woodworking. Anyway, so I have, I still have it, this table saw desk and router desk. It's all kind of built into one. And I would have my painting area on top when I wasn't woodworking. And it was a little bit of a pain to remove, and especially as I started getting more paints and stuff and it got a bit heavier, it was a bit of a pain. But the main problem with it was that the desk itself was very uncomfortable to sit at, because like table saws drop down quite low, the router as well. And I would jokingly say to my partner, I've built the most uncomfortable painting desk that exists. So, you know, I would constantly hit my leg against it, and it just wasn't a great setup. So anyway, fast forward, and one of my partner's friends, she's Chinese, but she speaks fluent Japanese, and anyway, this friend's parents were of retirement age, and they were planning to go back to China and live in a retirement sort of setup in China. And so she, like the parents were selling basically everything. They didn't want to take the furniture and things back because they were going into this aged care living place where it was all fully furnished. So selling everything. And my partner had arranged to buy one of the beds. They had a couple of beds that they were selling, and we wanted the bed for our spare bedroom. So we were going there and looking at everything else that they were selling. They had this desk, dining table, I guess they would have called it. And they were asking, I think it was like $150, something along those lines. I forget the exact figures, but let's say it was $150. But for you, oh, good price, your friend of daughter, so we'll give it to you for like $100 or $120 or whatever it was. It was offered at a little bit cheaper, but still, I thought for the I wouldn't have expected brand new it cost much more than $150, to be perfectly honest. So anyway, I ended up declining. And the arrangement was that they were moving out on a particular day, and on this particular day, everyone rocks up, takes the stuff, because like they needed to sleep in their beds until they were leaving, sort of thing. So there was a big day when everything must go. And so we turn up on the day, so we'd been there before, said, yes, we'll take this bed, and we were back there to actually pick it up. And because of the frame and the mattress, and it was all rather large size, we couldn't get it all in one trip. I have a roof rack, and I have like a metal tray that I put on my roof rack on top of it, and it just makes moving things pretty easy and convenient, but still I couldn't get everything in one go. So we go there and we do a load. I forget whether it was the mattress first or whatever, it doesn't matter. But anyway, we went back for a second time. And when we were going back for the second time to get the final bits of the bed, what do we see? But a couple of young boys had been roped into taking this table out the front of the complex and dumping it out the front like, anyone wants it can grab it. And I was like, okay, great. So yeah, long story short, we got the second part of the bed, which once again kind of filled up my space in the car, didn't have room for this table. So raced back home, dumped that off, raced back again. It was still there, obviously, because, I'm painting with it today. And yeah, long story short, got my paint desk for free. So yes, I was obviously very happy with that, and permanently attached the frame part to it. Ended up building these shelves, which I have all my dropper bottles on, and yeah, setting it up as a permanent paint desk, which from the legs point of view is way more comfortable than what I had before. So that is the story of my paint desk and how I ended up getting it for free. Sometimes these things just work out. Obviously they'd been trying to sell it and they couldn't get anyone else that looked at it that went, oh yeah, that's worth $150. And so in the end, you know, they were leaving that day. They literally were walking out the building, and they're like, oh, just put it on the side of the road or out the front of the townhouse complex as it was. And yeah, I'm like, great, I'll take that. For nothing, definitely. Just meant to be. I have given the plasma coils a third coat of white, and I went for a model color cold white. Just want to get that as bright white as possible before I start putting any blue on it. So the more you prepare, the better the end result, I find, with especially with like fluorescent colors. Not that that's what I'm using here, I'm just using regular paint, but yeah, still the same principle applies. The better you have it prepped, the nicer your end result will look. I'm thinking I might use a little bit of dark purple on the bottom parts as well as blue, just to give it another dimension as well. So basically the way the color scheme will work in my mind, whether it works out, you know, in actuality as well or not, I'm not sure, but in my mind the idea will be I'll do it all in a light blue to start off with, and then I'll go back over the very top part and out a little bit with some white, like indicating that that part is so hot it's white hot. But then down near the actual metal part itself, I'll add some darker blue anyway, and some like violet purple sort of colors, indicating it's still really hot there, but it's not as hot as on the absolute tips. So kind of like a 3-color gradient is the idea that I have in my mind. So yes, hopefully that will kind of convey the heat radiating. Hopefully the last video looked alright. I'm not sure when it happened, but I noticed that the right camera, the one that I have the most problems with, was completely out of not focus, out of its spot, like it had basically been bumped and gone facing down instead of facing out like it's supposed to. So might end up getting rid of that camera altogether. Thankfully it's not the main focus, so it's not a big deal if it's out of place, but still it's annoying to have happened, and I'm not sure what I did to, well, maybe I didn't do anything. Maybe it's just a droopy kind of mount that doesn't over time hold the weight of the camera, and it's drooped down, I'm guessing, because I don't think I touched it or hit it or anything like that. But alright, well, considering it's just its first coat of silver, it's actually turned out reasonably good, I think. Will look quite different to everything else once the white is gone from the plasma coils. So I may end up making these bolts a different colour, the same colour as I do all the bolts on the rest of the model. We'll see how I feel. I guess the same with these bolts at the top too, just to make them stand out and look a bit different. Kind of gone over it all. I just want to finish off the paint that I have on the palette, but it'll definitely need a second coat anyway. It's just the first. Alrighty, well that is the silver tanks. Okay, so gonna continue working on the Bruiser model. I'm going to do some dry brushing with a dark burnt umber brown colour on the skin. It's kind of a strategic decision to work on the skin now. Hopefully you'll be able to see parts of what I do. Strategic decision in the sense that I've finished the bloody skulls, but I'm not really going near them, so they're okay. But I do want to do some dry brushing. It probably is going to go over a bit on the dark blue and the blue. Blue's had 2 coats now, but the dark blues really only had 1 coat. So if I'm going to create a bit of a mess with the dry brush, then, you know, obviously I'm going to have to do touch-ups before I continue on. Now I am going to be doing some dry brushing of this light blue as well, but with a different colour, not a dark brown colour. So I'll want to get that all looking nice before I get into the dry brushing of that. So hence why I've decided it's the right time to work on the skin tones, and so this one should be able to see what I'm doing. Yes, and the detail will get picked up, and it obviously reduces the brightness of the brown, the light brown, by adding the dark brown. Plus, there's a lot of ridge line, especially to these tentacles, which, you know, the dry brush technique will pick up on nicely and really accentuate things. So a little bit awkward in the fact that it's such a big model, but it's all right. You get an idea. Okay, I'm probably not going to be able to do much more and show it off to you, but just wanted you to have a bit of a look at how it's going. I'll go through it all and then I'll do some photos at the end once it's all done. So I must admit I am pretty stoked with how the dry brushing of the skin worked. Obviously the 2 tones really pop, makes it work really, really well. And also, like I said, it was a bit of a strategic timing, because you can see, if it'll focus in, areas like where the dry brush brown has gone over. It's just pretty much impossible not for it to do it. Also in areas around, if I can get it to focus, around kind of like here, you can see how bits have gone over. So now I can tidy that up. but the skin is basically done, so yeah, easy to just tidy up the metal with the blue before I get on to sorting that out. But also now I've done that, like obviously I've got to do his teeth white, and I've got these metal bits that go into the sides of his skull. So now that dry brushing is done, I can do that sort of work.